here we go, my dear friends, this is it. How do I say goodbye to a show that has moved me in such a spiritual and emotional way? A series which time and again has made me cheer and cry. Andor is a symphony of rebellion and heartbreak, where every whisper of hope feels like a scream in the dark. And I have to say, there were so many times during these final 3 episodes I needed to take a deep breath. There's a part of me that wants to say, there are no words, but it's quite the opposite. I have so much to say, I don't know where to begin. In all of the years I've been doing this, there are very, very, very few occasions where you'll hear me use the word perfection, but the 3-part finale to Andor Season 2 was, in my opinion, pretty much as close to perfect as you can get for an ending to an outstanding series that connects directly to Catherine and Tivik in Rogue One. And it got me thinking back to some of the early reviews because some of those first critics said the Rogue One tie-ins are pretty obtuse, very shoehorned in. I don't know about that, my dear friends, I thought they were very smooth. These episodes were fantastic in tying up loose ends, giving us some unexpected fates, and polishing it off with a crazy twist at the end that ensures Andor's legacy continues beyond his Scarif death. Oh yes, there is another.
There is another.
Bix and Cassian have a son. For a final arc of such an amazing show, this was everything I could have asked for in a finale. There were a few interesting cameos that we have to talk about, but nothing too extreme. No Palpatine, no Tarkin, no Thrawn, no Vader, and I know there are some fans who are upset about this, but I think it was for the best. Now this might be something of a hot take, but of the 3 episodes, episode 10 was by far my favourite. In fact, are you ready for this? I would go as far as to say this might be one of the best episodes of television Disney Star Wars has ever produced. I am a sucker for a good Star Wars backstory, what can I say? Especially when characters have been built up across many episodes or seasons, in some instances, that when we finally learn about their lives before they were who they are today, as an audience, we want to be wowed. We're always hoping for a satisfying payoff. Aside from Rey, which they kind of fumbled the bag with, I would say Grogu's backstory was arguably the biggest question mark of the Disney Star Wars era, before Book of Boba Fett and Mando Season 3 gave us answers. But in this show, in Andor, the 2 most mystifying characters were Luthen and Kleya. And oh boy, I must have made a dozen videos speculating about where they were from, how they met, who they were related to, all of those kinds of things. But finally we got official answers, and I was very satisfied. The pacing of episode 10 was perfect, with interspersed flashbacks that didn't over-explain and weren't too indulgent. They just gave us enough. Their backstories were very straightforward but also very powerful. I'm actually very happy they didn't do anything too grandiose. Luthen wasn't a former Jedi or anything like that. He was an early Imperial army officer who just had enough. There are a few question marks about the year of the flashback. Was he a separatist? Was he a Republic officer? I'm going to assume he once was Republic. But when the Republic was reorganized into the First Galactic Empire, he just stayed put. But when it came time to genocide entire worlds, Luthen decided enough was enough. But as he teaches Kleya, who he discovers aboard his military cargo, they had to be patient before they could strike back. We didn't see every moment they spent together, but Luthen took her under his wing as his protege, and for all intents and purposes, his daughter. Their life together was Leon the professional but in space, and through these amazing flashbacks, and by the way, big credit to the director Alonso Ruiz Palacios, we get a much better understanding of the drive behind Axis Cell, their muse, the atrocities they observed from the early Empire, the equation Luthen came up with. The Empire must be stopped. And we also got to see how their interest in antiques started. It was a way for them to survive. And not to mention, my dear friends, one of the flashbacks takes us to Naboo. Its first live-action appearance in 20 years. Can you believe it? As we knew from Bespin Bulletin's leaks a couple of years ago, they returned to Heather Castle to film this, a filming location from a deleted scene in The Phantom Menace. All I can say is Naboo is beautiful and it worked so well in these scenes. But the main reason these flashbacks were so darn powerful is because they were juxtaposed against Kleya's grief, how she was feeling in the present moment, on the verge of losing Luthen, because he finally got found out by Dedra Meero. He stabbed himself and was quickly taken to Lina So Hospital on Coruscant. And that was a very unexpected High Republic Easter egg. Lina So was Chancellor of the Republic 200 years before this show. But the mission of Kleya breaking into the medical center was so tense, and Andor's specialty is knowing how to twist the knife in a way you never see coming. I think most of us assumed Kleya was trying to break Luthen out. The ISB was making sure he was alive. Before Dedra was arrested, she hoped to interrogate him. But just as Luthen killed Lonnie at the start of the episode, after unveiling the Empire's plans for the Death Star, Galen Erso, Jeddah, kyber crystals, all of that stuff, we see just how much Kleya has learnt from Luthen. Kill the most expendable, leave no trace, and never give the enemy what they want. Taking Luthen off his life support ensures the Empire never gets what they want. The rebellion lives to fight another day. Killing Luthen was difficult, but it was an act of love. And the show has done so much to remind us that rebellion comes at a price. And to me, the first episode, episode 10, was the very, very best of the final arc. Just a couple of Easter eggs I want to talk about. The artifact Luthen himself with is a Nautolan bleeder, a blade used by the species of Kit Fisto. Another item Luthen sells in one of the flashbacks is Deveronian. And did you know the grandmother, the alien that Kleya escorts in the medical center, is of the same species we see sitting on a bench on Neamos in the first season? It was also rather jarring but awesome to see a Lothcat. That was in the scene where Lonnie is revealed to be dead. Now there has been a bit of criticism that this final arc and this episode in particular was very narrow in its focus. I don't share this critique. I found this approach very palatable. We were nonetheless left on the edge of our seats. And it must be said, these episodes put so much emphasis on how important the character of Kleya really is. Because when you think about it, Cassian, Melshi and K2 getting her off Coruscant and to Yavin took up so much of this arc. I'm just happy she lived. It's the same deal with Vel. I'm so happy not everyone died. Even if Cassian is about to meet his fate very, very soon. The door is open for so many more stories to come for those who didn't appear in Rogue One. Now with Dedra Meero, Tony Gilroy said he always knew that she was going to go down. She didn't die, but he confirms the prison that she ended up in is in the Narkina system. Either Narkina 3 or Narkina 9. In terms of Partagaz, he decided to go out on his own terms moments before he was arrested for his failures. And the perfect touch was that it came right after him listening to Nemik's manifesto, and once again calling the rebellion a disease that has spread, just like he did in Season 1. Now some people are wondering, is the ISB going to be permanently disbanded? The answer is no. In canon it's still around until Return of the Jedi, but it's about to be reorganized. We're once again reminded there are some fates worse than death, and Palpatine doesn't tolerate anything but success. Anyone who fails has to go. But here's a twist I bet you didn't expect. Mon Mothma's husband Perrin was having an affair with Skolden's wife, the mother of his daughter's husband, and he's back on the Source. Not good. So let's talk about some big connections to Rogue One. There were mentions of Galen Erso, Scarif, the Star Destroyer over Jeddah, and Saw Gerrera discovering the truth about the use of kyber crystals for the Death Star. The scenes where this is being discussed at Rebel headquarters is so incredibly frustrating. No one is taking the threat seriously, and even when Cassian comes to the Rebel leadership and tells them, Luthen died for this intel is legit, the Empire is building a superweapon and we need to be afraid, they didn't want to listen. And just to address some of the familiar faces, Radus, Nawa Jabal, Benjamin Bratt as Bail Organa, Senator Pamlo, who also appears in the Bad Batch as well as Rogue One, and Tenzigo Weems. But of course this is how everything ties into the movie, because the next time the Rebel Alliance on Yavin has an official meeting, Cassian would have found out the truth from Tivik. The truth about the Death Star, the truth about Galen Erso, and the defection of Bodhi Rook. But we have to talk about the end credits scene. We return to Mina Rao. We see Brasso's girlfriend, and she's been looking after B2EMO. But the most important character is Bix. After she left Cassian, we wondered where she went. Turns out she returned here, and she has their son in her hands. Cassian might be about to die, but there is another Andor, and he's probably going to feature in future Star Wars projects. Funnily enough, yesterday I posted this in reference to Cad Bane's son. Mark my words, this is just the start. Many fan-favourite characters will be revealed to have children so that Lucasfilm can keep their legacy alive through their offspring. Mark my words. And by the way, for those saying, is this Poe Dameron? Is it Poe Dameron? Absolutely not. Unless they decide to retcon entire characters, we know a lot about Poe's origins and his parents, Shara Bay and Kez Dameron, not Bix and not Cassian. But I had such a fun time with these episodes, it is so sad to say goodbye. I'll be making more videos in the week breaking down individual scenes, but those are my initial thoughts, and I'm giving the finale a 10 out of 10. What did you guys think? And how do you feel about the entire show, now that it's all said and done? Did you enjoy it? Let me know. Let's have a dialogue in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.